When I record podcasts, I like to stay hydrated. Who knew talking could be so hard? My favourite drink to have to hand is Lifeline's Hydro OG. It's a tried and tested product for me. It helped me and my team complete a 24-hour podcast, giving us the edge that we needed to get over the finish line. So whether you're at the gym, on a bike ride, or just trying to get over that night before, Lifeline's Hydro OG has got your back. Each serving is stocked with all the healthy ingredients and vitamins you could ask for. There are a great range of flavours, and with each serving at only 18 calories, you really can't go wrong. Here at the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast, we like to support local, independent companies and brands, and Lifelines is a product that I am proud to endorse. Go to lifelines.com. Now that's LYFELINEZ.com to find out more. Now, without further ado, here is today's episode. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. I'm Alex Whiteley. Thank you so much for tuning in. And today we're coming from not just Theatre Severn, but like the business end of Theatre Severn, part of the theatre I've never been to. I'm actually in Brad Fitt's dressing room right now. I'm chatting with Brad. How are you?
I'm very well, Alex. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for doing this. It's really nice to finally meet you. You're like one of the most, prominent figure here in Shrewsbury. Everybody knows who you are.
Well, they know who I am when I'm on stage, I suppose. I can still walk around. Nobody knows me once I'm outside, though.
So you don't get recognised an awful lot?
No, because if you look behind you, where you're sat now, you can see my padded suit there, which changes my shape, and obviously all my makeup, and the wigs and everything. So I'm unrecognisable, really, I suppose.
You're kind of like Batman.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ninja.
How is that for you, though? Because, I mean, I know people adore you for the roles you play at the pantomimes, and you have done for so long here in Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
But to almost be incognito afterwards.
I don't mind. I think people like the character. I don't think people really know. Well, they do know me. I see people outside stage door and stuff, and some people will, my picture is in the programme, so,
Got a nice website as well. Obviously, I did a bit of research before I came in.
Oh, right. Yeah. That was you, was it? I saw somebody was on the website.
That was me lurking earlier.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it here. And I love the people. That's why I keep coming back. This is my 11th pantomime here, but my 12th year, because I was here the year that we won't mention when they didn't do a show because of COVID and the lockdowns and everything. But I did a one-man show that year with my musical director, Simon Hansen.
Oh, wow.
So it's my 12th year here at Christmas, but my 11th pantomime title.
Wonderful. So obviously it takes a lot of experience to get to where you are today. And that's got to start from somewhere. So I think that the best thing to do is to find out who young Brad is. Where do you begin?
All right. Where did I begin? Well, I was born in Norwich in 1975, and I grew up in Norwich. And I think my first to get into pantomime and stuff like that, the first theatre experience I had was I was about 5 years old, and I was taken to see Cinderella at the Theatre Royal Norwich with Paul Henry, who's actually a local man now. I think he lives in Whitchurch or somewhere like that. Anyway, Paul Henry, if you can see in the top of my little makeup box there, you'll see a badge that says Buttons, I loves your cinders, and that's Paul Henry. Benny from Crossroads.
Wonderful.
And I went to see this pantomime, and I thought, that's it. I want to work in theatre. And I was never really I was quite a shy child, and didn't really want to put myself out there. And I thought, well, I won't be an actor or anything like that. But then I discovered when I was about 16, I got a job as an usher at the Theatre Royal Norwich, and one of my jobs was putting posters up in the foyer for the show that was coming the next week. And I started making. It used to be quite boring. You could only fit like 3 posters and a row of leaflets in this board. So I started cutting them up and making 3D posters, and we had like the I can't remember the name of the show now. The musical with the big plant, Little Shop of Horrors. I made a big 3D Little Shop of Horrors Audrey, and I made 3D things. And then the theatre manager saw this and said, would I help make props for the pantomime that year? They were looking for an assistant to the prop maker. So I fell into becoming a prop maker, and I became a prop maker for Aladdin, which I was doing, making lamps and trifles and massive rubber ducks and things like that, and I loved it. And I thought, well, this is great. I could work backstage. There's another, there's other things you can do in theatre other than be on stage. And then the day I finished being a prop maker, the assistant stage manager who was working on the show had a nervous breakdown, and because I'd just finished being a prop maker, they asked if I would be the ASM, and an ASM is the person that sets the props on stage and works backstage. So I sort of fell into that as well. And that's how I started working in theatre. I was an assistant stage manager.
It's really interesting, the metamorphosis that happens when it sounds like you got completely immersed with theatre from an outside position.
Yeah.
And then as you're taking these gradual steps inside and further inside and further inside, you just feels like you were grabbed. You're grappled in, and
I was nice. Very lucky. I had lots of different things happened, and so that pantomime that I was ASM on was Aladdin, and the dame was Christopher Biggins. He was playing Widow Twanky.
Legend, absolutely.
Legend, Biggins. He's there. You can see a picture of him there on my desk. Still a good friend, and he was the dame, and Victor Spinetti, great Welsh actor Victor Spinetti, was Abanazar, and I learned so much from them, and I made a prop for Biggins that he really liked, and he was impressed. I sort of did it in my lunch break, because he came up with this idea just before we stopped for a lunch break in rehearsals, when we were doing technical rehearsals. He was dressed as Tina Turner for some reason. I don't know why. Don't ask me why he was dressed as Tina.
Why not? Just why not?
in O.P. King. But he was, and he wanted, the National Lottery had just started, and he wanted one of those big National Lottery hand, it could be
it's you,
it could be you signs on his bottom. And so we broke for lunch, and I went out and I got some plastic, and I photocopied the ticket, and I made it bigger, and I cut it all out, and I did everything, and glittered it all up, and I dried it in a wig oven, and I drilled holes in it. I took it to wardrobe, and I said, can you sew that on the bottom of the Tina Turner dress? And when he came back after that, I then went off and grabbed a sandwich in the 5 minutes I had or whatever, and then I came back, and Biggins put the dress back on and did this bit again, and then turned and said, oh, and don't forget, we'll get one of these hands sewn on the bum. And the director, a man called Peter Wilson, said, oh, it's already there. And he said, well, how's that? And then he called me and he said, did you do that? And I did it in my break. But I was 17. I was really eager to, impress and work and do stuff. And from that, he said, well, I'm really impressed by that. And then he offered me a job as a stage manager on a thing called the Holders Opera Season, which happened in Barbados. So suddenly I was a stage manager. So I sort of fell into that as well. But then I worked with Chris for many years as his company manager, having trained in stage management at Bristol Old Vic Theatre School. And then he did about 5 years at Cambridge Arts Theatre as Dame, and he used to write and direct. And then when he left, I used to offer him the odd joke. So I would say to him, oh, why don't you try this, or why don't you try that? And he would do them, and they'd get laughs. So I started writing more and more. And then when Biggins left Cambridge Arts Theatre, they asked me to write the following years. So I fell into becoming a scriptwriter. Once I'd written it, they asked me to direct it, because they said, well, you'll know what happens because you're the director, you wrote it. So I fell into becoming a director. And then after a few years, they asked me to play an ugly sister.
Wow.
So I fell into that as well. So, yeah.
It seems to me like, because obviously with behind the scenes in theatre, there's lots of moving machinery, lots of working parts and stuff. So to take that initiative, that very brave move to sew a prop on the back of a dress. I mean, that must have taken some big kahunas to do that. It really paid off for you.
Well, it did eventually, yeah, because he offered me a job then, and
because he could have ended up with what have you done to my dress?
I know, that was 30 years ago, and I'm still working with him, and he's a good friend, and he sort of started me on my career, Biggins, and he suggested Bristol because I thought, well, that's what I want to be. That's what I wanted to be at the time, stage manager. And so I trained as a stage manager, and I just sort of evolved really. But I still do all sorts of things. I don't just do this. Obviously, pantomime is a once a year thing for a month,
of course,
6 weeks. So the rest of the year, I work in theatre production. I book tours. I'm a theatre producer. I write kids shows. I direct things. It's all theatre based, but pantomime is the only time I'm actually in front of the audience.
I guess when you're running things backstage, and so you're marketing, you're moving things around throughout the year. When it comes to, is that my phone? I don't know what that was. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
That was very weird. When you come to play your dame role, is that like a break for you? Is that like okay? Or are you still working while you're doing that?
No, I'm still working. We're in my dressing room now. You can see I'm sat here. Sorry. I've got my computer set up behind me. I'm tour booking. I'm booking tours. I've got a kids show out at the minute called Tales from Acorn Wood. That's going into Birmingham at Christmas. I'm booking an Inspector Calls, The Woman in Black, Dirty Dancing, getting plugs in for all of these shows now. So I tour book those. I'm always working at different things, but I do enjoy, going on stage and do it. Panto is a great. I wouldn't say it's a break from other stuff. It's just a different element of what I do. Most of the stuff I do is backstage or office based, and so panto is, I direct other things during the year, but I don't star in them.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer writing and directing, or do you prefer being on stage?
I like being on stage at Christmas. I don't think I could be. I've got no interest in being an actor for other things. I mean, I know. Obviously, I've got lots of friends that are actors. I think it's one of the hardest things. Putting yourself into an audition, 2 times a week or 3 times or whatever, however many you're lucky enough to get. But to have to stand there in front of a panel of people and be like, pick me. There's awful figures in there. There's like 100 out of all of equity members, acting equity members. I think 97% of them are not working at any one point.
It sounds like something. So I mean, we're working with Rocking Horse Media. They're making Henry House. There's a care home drama. We've been doing Horses and Biscuits with them for coming on a year now, so every couple of weeks now at the moment, every month we meet up, find out who's been cast for what. We'll go to auditions and things. So I get to see this backstage. I get to see people come in, do auditions, not get a role and go away. And for years I've been interviewing celebrities and actors on various podcasts and things. And I do ask about auditions a lot. And it sounds like a very ruthless, brutal thing. It can be.
It's hard. I have to sit on audition panels when people coming in, and you see them coming in, and then they're nervous. I try and make them feel comfortable, and I just I want to give everyone the job. It's really hard if you see you can put a casting breakdown out on Spotlight. You might have 2 roles, and within 3 hours, you might have 2,000 submissions that you've got to go through.
That's insane.
Yeah, and then you have to cut that down to who you're going to see, and then you see them, and I couldn't do that.
Does it get easier after a few years of just? I suppose you've got to be able to cut yourself off from that, haven't you?
Yeah, you have to give people the time though as well. I've never been on the other side. I've never auditioned for anything. I've been very lucky, but I've been on panels with people that have made me feel uncomfortable because they just don't give people the time. And I think, no, come on, they've come a long way. They've travelled here. They've prepared a song. They've worked on a speech. They've done this. Give them the time of even if they walk in and you think no, they're not right.
Yeah,
you've got to let them, because you might think, well, they're not right for this, but they'll crop up. That's happened to me before, where I've seen someone, I thought, no, they're not right for this. But then I've done something else and I thought, oh, I know who's perfect for this. So you have to give them the time and, at least give them that.
It's not. It's a nice thing when it all works out, though, isn't it? I guess when you find that starlet or that the perfect person for the role, and it sort of fits in, you must get a lot of satisfaction from that.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's nice, and it's nice being able to, give people that opportunity.
I did it. It worked.
It worked.
I made this. That's wonderful. Now, Where are you? You're not local to Shrewsbury, are you?
No, I live in Norfolk.
Norfolk.
Yeah, Norfolk. Completely the opposite side of the country.
So you come and stay here for a few weeks, do your thing, and then
I move over here sort of mid-November, and then I go back. I tend to get home a couple of times across the run. All my family come here, but I'll get home. I definitely go home on Christmas Eve. I have Christmas at home, and then I'm back here. I get home on Christmas Eve about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then Christmas Day at home, and then I'm back in the car at about 6 a.m. on Boxing Day to drive back for a matinee.
I was going to say wonderful, but that sounds hard.
Yeah, but it is what it is. The Christmas when we didn't do a show was the first year in my working, since I was 17, that I'd had more than just Christmas Day off, because I'd always done panto.
What were you like then? Were you like,
I was totally in the way. I felt in the way at home, because all the things that I miss out on, like putting the tree up and all that sort of stuff, I would sort of try and join in. So I would put things up, and they were like, no, we don't put that there, we do that there, and we don't do, So I was totally in the way.
I'm like that. I've tore 2 ligaments in my ankle earlier in the year, and I was off work for like 3 weeks, and my wife sat there just glaring at me while I just sat there complaining about things with a foot up on a chair.
Yeah,
and it's horrible. I'm a complete workaholic. I don't stop. I mean, I don't complain about it, because I love doing what I do. I can kind of see a similarity between, in certain regards, what I do and what you're doing, because even though you're in an amazing role and you've worked really hard for what you're doing, I can't stop. Doing what I'm doing. I'm interviewing tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I love what I'm doing. You've got to be passionate about it, haven't you, to be able to put your all into it the way you do.
Yeah, and if you do something that you enjoy, it's not like work, is it?
No.
I mean, it is tough. I've been this year. I have been touring with an Inspector Calls since August, which is weekly touring. I finished that last Saturday. I was in Newcastle. I flew back 6 a.m. Sunday morning, drove from Heathrow to home. I was up Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday morning. I was actually moving house. Wednesday afternoon, I drove up here. Thursday morning, I started rehearsals. It'll be like that all the way through. And I think I do the panto run. We finish on the 8th of Jan, and I start Inspector on the 9th of Jan in Salford. So
wow.
I'm straight onto it. I think, there's Christmas Day, and I think there must be a week off in Easter or something, I think.
I always wonder about, tours and things, but especially big ones like to go on for theatre tours just seem to be never ending.
Yeah.
Do you? Is it too cliche to say, if you don't know which town you're in every day? I mean, can it get like that?
It can get like that. Yeah, it can. If you do weekly touring, isn't so bad. When you're doing, sometimes I've not done them for years and years and years, but I used to do kids shows where you'd do 2 days in a venue, and then you'd move, and then you'd do another.
Wow.
So you're moving all the time. And quite often you didn't know where you were. But
which town are we in again?
Yeah, where are we? Yeah, but weekly's all right. I mean, weekly's, it's still busy. I mean, you travel on a Sunday, you open on a Monday, you do Tuesday, Wednesday matinee, Wednesday evening, Thursday matinee, Thursday evening, Friday, 2 shows Saturday, you move on again Sunday. It's difficult to get home and stuff, but it's it is.
It's to some that's probably adventurous and exciting, for a bit. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think I'd mind that for a little bit, I guess, but I think after a while I'd get a bit dizzy. With the pantomime in Shrewsbury, because it is a big show, very well polished, looks amazing, and how much hands on it are you with the show? Do you write it as well, or do others do that?
It's written by Paul Hendy, who runs the company Evolution with his wife Emily Wood, and he writes them, and I get sent it usually by September, early October, the sort of the draft that he's done, and then I look at it, and then we'll have a conversation, and then I might suggest some bits and pieces, and it'll come back and forth. So I have a bit of input there. and he speaks to Simon, our musical director, about song choices and things like that. So we do have a bit of input, but I don't write it. But I have input. I rewrite it sometimes.
This doesn't work. I prefer to do this.
Yeah, as long as Paul's all right with it. But I do a bit of writing. But then once we're in rehearsals, I'm the director as well. So I sort of, it's my work. I've never ever been in a pantomime that I've not directed. So I'm always, sometimes I think, I'd like you actually to just get another director in, and then I can sort of sit back. Because what happens is you get into rehearsals and I will be playing Dame. So I might do the opening scene, for example, and now the opening scene may be the fairy and the baddie. Let's say, for example. So I will direct that scene and I'll work on it with those two actors. Then they will go off and they'll have a cup of tea and they'll go over their lines. And then I'll do the next scene, which might be the princess and the comic and the dame. Now, obviously, I'm in that scene, so I will do that scene with them. And then they will all go off. Well, the comic and the princess will go off and sort of learn their lines and remember what they did and have a cup of tea. But I will be doing the next scene that I might not be in. But so I never get that chance to go off and after a scene and think, right, well, this is what I do there, and da da da. So I'm always the last one to learn my lines and what I do. But I sort of tend to get it in, rather than the rehearsal room, I get it in the technical rehearsal now, which we're about to go into tomorrow, which is where we go on stage and we do it all with the scenery moving and the lighting and everything. So we have to keep going over it and over it, to get the lighting and everything right. So
how do you keep up with it all? That's so much information to take in, not just for the pantomime, but on top of everything else you're doing as well. How do you memorize it all? Is it
I don't know.
A technique?
No, I have no idea. I don't know. I was talking to an actor called Michael Nielsen, who played Captain Hook for me a few years ago now. We did Peter Pan last year. Was it Peter Pan last year? Yeah, this was the Peter Pan we did about 7 or 8 years ago. And Michael Nielsen, we were talking about how your brain works on stage. It is a fascinating thing. If you're on stage and you're doing a line and something happens, so I might be doing a speech and something happens whilst I'm doing that speech, like that's something in the audience that I notice or something happens. And whilst you're still talking, your brain is thinking, oh, there's a joke in there somewhere, or some man in the audience who I've picked on may have said something, given a funny job title, or something. And whilst you're still doing the lines as scripted, your brain is thinking, oh, what about this joke? And then you're also thinking at the same time, how can I get that joke in? And you sort of think, oh, well, if I change that bit in a minute, I'll be able to come back and do that as a joke. So I don't know how it works really, but it is fascinating.
Just have to do the maths. I'll work out how that is. I always find that sort of role fascinating though, because you're right. There's all these well rehearsed lines and your own direction that you're giving yourself, as well as the improvisation. That's got to be it's got to be polished and fine, because there's all these people staring at you.
Yeah,
you go for those laughs. It's hardest thing to do.
I've never thought of it like that before.
Yeah,
you probably make me nervous now.
Oh, no. You're a pro. You're a pro. How do you do it on the bad days? Because obviously, Robin Williams, the best comedians in the world have talked about the hard days. When it's hard to be funny.
Yeah.
Is there some way you motivate yourself on those days where you just feel a bit, I can't be bothered doing this today? I mean,
no, I don't think so. I mean, I personally, you have tough days, and I think once you're in and it's hard. You sit down. It's not like you just come in and go straight on stage. I have to, get ready. I have to shave first, and then start putting my face on, which takes a time, and then I have to put stupid costumes on, and with padding and all that sort of stuff. So I'm getting ready, and also I have my tannoy on. I've turned it down now, but my tannoy there on the wall. Usually I can hear people turning up. So I've got the Christmas music going, and you can hear kids laughing and families laughing and stuff like that. So it would be difficult to go out there as miserable as sin. And,
I guess you could play on that though, couldn't you? Like, oh, I'm not in the mood for you lot today. Yeah, sort of thing. Well, I did put I asked for some questions of people.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So
goodness me.
Emma Crowell asked, what's your favourite costume? Your best crazy Your best costume, first of all. She asked a couple of questions here.
Who was this? Emma?
Yeah.
Emma, best costume. What was my best costume? I did it. Dick Whittington. There was a sort of a. There was a moment where I had a big dressing gown on, and which I took off, and then underneath I had like a bikini on. That was a good one. That used to get a good reaction. That was a funny one. I liked that, although it was very hot.
Nice.
That was probably my best one. I liked that. What was her other question? Emma? Greedy Emma with 2 questions.
Has it all gone wrong, or your favourite in-stage experience that may have gone wrong?
May have gone wrong. Has anything gone wrong? I think something went wrong last year. Here we had a production. We were doing Peter Pan, and we had a huge revolve. So a big piece of set that used to slide on from the back of the stage on a winch, and it would go to centre stage, and then it could turn. And between the early morning show, 10:15 show, and the 2 o'clock show, it got stuck. It came out of its runners, and somebody was coming to fix it, but they couldn't get here in time. We couldn't get it off stage, and we couldn't get it on stage. We couldn't turn it. We couldn't bring any curtains in. We couldn't do anything. But 600 children had already been dropped off.
Oh no!
By the coaches, and we couldn't do anything. And so we went out. Luckily, we could get them into another show. We'd put another show on, so we could shift them and put them into another show. But we had 600 kids here and a few adults that had booked separately, families and stuff. But they were here, and they had 2 hours to kill. So we had to do so. So we made up a show. I made up a show. I said to all the cast, I said, just put your costumes on, put your mics on, and come and join me. So I went out first and said hello and explained to the audience that, the set was stuck. But that they would, we were going to sort them out and we were going to do something for them. And we did 45 minutes of just
improv,
chat, songs,
wonderful,
old routines that I remembered from years ago. And I think I probably did a Q&A session. I don't know what I did, but we did 45 minutes. Then we had an interval. They were all given an ice cream. And then we went back out and did another 45 minutes. And they loved it. They said it was one of the best.
They had the best show of everybody.
They did, and then they got to come back and see it again. So that was a big thing that went wrong. But
it turned out to be a nice experience.
Yeah,
though.
It was good. It was good. Kept everyone on their toes.
Steve Oliver says your funniest wardrobe malfunction. Have you had any
funniest wardrobe
slip
malfunction?
Out or
slip out? No, I've had nothing slip out. No, it's all very lycra and I'm quite safe. Funniest wardrobe malfunction. I went on stage once. This wasn't here. This was in Cambridge years ago. I went out on stage and I did my whole opening scene. And I just didn't feel right. I didn't feel right, and I was doing it, and I thought, there's something weird. There's something weird here, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I came off stage, and I thought, I didn't like that. I don't know what was wrong. And I walked back into my dressing room to get changed, and my boobs were hanging up on the door. I didn't have my boobs on. That was what it was. So that's why I didn't.
So you weren't very damey.
No, I wasn't very damey. I was just,
more gamey.
Yeah, it was just. That was a malfunction.
He also asks, have you ever fully lost it laughing? The giggles.
The giggles. No. I'm quite good. I do laugh, but I'm quite good at snapping out of it. But I do like when you find an actor that is a corpser, as in they corpse. I don't know where that comes from, corpse, but they laughing.
Yeah.
Eric Smith was a great one for corpsing, but and if you know that, I quite enjoy knowing that I can get them to laugh. I have laughed.
I'd find it.
There was a man once that I'd picked on that had a really, really weird laugh. That it was sort of a delayed laugh. So every time we did a joke or anything, you would get the laugh, and then his would come in 2 or 3 seconds after. Yeah, he was a big exhaler and then a big inhale, and that started to make everyone laugh. I think that gave me the giggles.
I find that really difficult, I think. I mean, I did a bit of acting at the prison. We did prison breaks and stuff.
Right.
And I played a drag queen that had been put in prison wrongfully, of course.
Right.
And I had my role was just to throw hissy fits and tantrums at people. But I was making myself laugh so much because the shock on people's face when you blow up in their face. I had the wig on, and there were roles that we did that were just ridiculous, just totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if I'm next to someone who's been equally ridiculous, I find it hard to stay in character and just stay focused. So I can imagine being on stage in front of 1,000 people would just make me just die inside.
I've not done it on stage. I have done it where I've helped people do self-tape or film tapes where I've had to help them, and something's happened and you just can't do it. I don't know why. Maybe it's because there's people there watching you. I can snap out of it, but on film I have where you just can't. You can't get the words out. It's
like when you're in school and they tell you not to laugh. You just want to laugh even more.
Yeah.
Anna Williams from Lingon Davis. Hello, Anna.
Hello,
Anna. She says, what makes you keep coming back to Shrewsbury? Not that she doesn't want you here or anything.
Yeah.
She said, why do you keep coming back, Brad?
Thanks, Anna. What makes me keep coming back? Well, I've got a contract. That keeps me coming back. And
the moolah.
The people, I love it here. I love, it's really nice. I know friends of mine, or people that I know that play Ugly Sisters. Now, if you play an Ugly Sister and that's all you play, you only ever do 1 year at a theatre before you move on, because they don't do Cinderella every year. So you have to just keep moving on. Yeah. Whereas if you play Dame, you can stick around for a few years. And then the lovely thing about it is that you get to know the audience and they get to know you. So there's a shorthand that you have with them. So the first year I came here, obviously nobody knew me. And then they come back the next year and they think, oh, it's the same Dame again. So you don't have to, create that rapport with the audience again, because they know you and they know what you're like. And then once you've done a few years, it's like a shorthand. I don't have to go through all that. Hello, my name's so and so, and this is who
people know who you are. That's what I said at the beginning of the podcast. You were renowned in Shrewsbury,
and they know what to expect now. Yeah. So it's nice. Yeah. And I get to know people. The same people book the same seats on the same days,
Yeah, where is he? Where?
I know the men that I pick on, and you think, oh, well, they'll book up in the circle next year, and there they are. They're back in the same seats.
Oh, wonderful! That's really nice.
Wanting the attention.
Do you feel like you're building a bit of a legacy with lots of young actors coming through, seeing you taking them under your wing and giving them the push and the shove that they need, a bit of encouragement? Are you seeing a lot of actors coming through while you've been here?
I've worked with a lot of different people while I've been here. We've got quite a new cast this year. I've people that I haven't worked with before, which is nice. It changes. I'm unhappy about being the oldest member of the company this year, people change and people move on, and it's nice when you find a nice team to nice people to work with.
It's really nice as well that the town get you involved with lots of local events as well. I know you're doing a quiz for Lingon Davis. Is that today?
I am doing a quiz later this evening at the Butter Market.
Yes,
I believe.
And
I've never been to the Butter Market in 11 years, but I'm going tonight.
The last time I went there, I think I was dressed as a psychopathic butcher. We'd done a thing at the prison, and they invited us round to do just scare people in the that were queuing up.
Right.
I had this big fake wooden knife, and I was just staring at them, licking my life and stuff. And they give us unlimited beer, and I was driving, so I couldn't drink any.
Oh, well, there you go.
But yeah, it's a good place. Good place, the Butter Market. Let's go. And I had another question as well. She said, I can remember it. She said, have you ever been tempted to sort of look at other venues or pantos around? Has people come knocking on the door? Brad, we want you to come over here. Come over here.
Yeah, I've been offered other things and stuff like that. But I was in Cambridge for a long time. I was in Cambridge for 10 years, which was closer to where I lived. Still wasn't on my doorstep, but it was closer, and it was a nice theatre, and it was an intimate theatre, and I'd built up a following and a crowd there. But Paul Hendy, who runs Evolution, came to see me. It must have been 12, 14, 15 years ago when I was at Cambridge, and I remember I knew who Paul Hendy was. He used to be on television. I don't know if you remember. He used to be on the Disney Club, and he was on Wheel of Fortune, and
Wow.
he was the sort of red-haired comic. He's the one on. He does that famous "It'll Be All Right on the Night" where he goes up to someone and says, "Are you peckish?" And they said, "No, I'm Turkish." He's that guy. That's his most famous thing. But he came to see me. Somebody had said, "Oh, you should go and see this Dame Brad in Cambridge." And one day I got a phone call at the stage door, and they said, "Oh, Paul Hendy's been in touch. He wants to come and see the show." And I said, "Paul Hendy? I don't know Paul Hendy." Well, I knew who he was. So I went and phoned, and I said, it won't be the Paul I know or I know of. And when I phoned up, he said, "Oh, hi, mate, it's Paul." He's from Telford, actually, Paul Hendy.
Oh, well.
He said, "All right, mate, I'd like to come see you." And, and so anyway, I got him a ticket, and he came to see this particular show. And by the time he came round to the dressing room, I'd managed to take my face off and my padded suit there. So he knocked on the dressing room door, and I opened the door, and he said, hello, mate, I've come to see Brad." And I said, "Oh, hi, Paul. Yeah, nice to meet you." And he didn't know it was me, because he was expecting some sort of middle-aged, large,
You don't know what's going on underneath that makeup.
Larger bloke. But back then I was, gosh, how would I have been? 32, something like that. And then he phoned me. That was the last show of that season. I think he phoned me the next day and offered me Croydon. And I thought, no, I don't think so. I don't fancy Croydon at Christmas. And then the following year he phoned up and offered me somewhere else. I can't remember where it was, Crawley or somewhere. And I had another year with Cambridge under contract. And then the following year, after I'd done 10 years at Cambridge, he phoned and said they'd just won the tender to put a pantomime here at Theatre Severn in Shrewsbury. And I thought, oh, I've never been to Shrewsbury, but I think I've got a feeling it's quite nice. So I came down and I had a look around, and I thought, oh yeah, it's nice. It's a nice place, and it feels more like my sort of place.
It's a big little town, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's nice. And it was, Cambridge was nice. I like Cambridge, and this seemed nice as well. And I spent a day or so here, and then I thought, oh, yeah, 10 years is good. I'll make the move. So I moved, and now I've been here 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I've got no plans in going anywhere.
There you go, guys.
I'm back next year. Jack and the Beanstalk.
Yes.
Tickets on sale soon.
Oh, wow.
I believe.
I think it's phenomenal of the role of a dame. You're thinking about it. It's one of those roles that you have to perfect. I mean, when you think about some of the most famous dames over the years, who's your favorite? Have you got any famous sort of TV dames or pantomime dames that you look up to when you were growing up?
I liked the old. I like Billy Dainty. You probably don't even know Billy Dainty, do you? He was a comic, and he used to do funny dances. He was good. Billy Dainty said to a comic famously once, he said, "Don't ever put a dress on for panto, because he said if you're half good, you'll never get out of it again." That's what he said. Billy Dainty. Terry Scott was a good dame from Terry and June. Who did I like? There was a dame, Phil Randall is a very good dame that I saw. I like the old school dames.
Yeah. Yeah.
The sort of Norman Evans.
Has the role
types.
changed over the years? Are the people bringing different things to it?
There are sort of different types of dames, aren't there? There's dames. There's the Danny LaRue type dame, the very glamorous dame, which is very good in if the people that do that. The best one that does that now is Kerry Dupree, I'd say, who's really good at that sort of thing. He's lent me some stuff. I did a pantomime here a few years ago, and Kerry Dupree is a very, very glamorous dame. He's all big hair and gorgeous frocks and lots of jewellery. And I needed to borrow a couple of wigs, and I drove down to. He's in Cardiff, I think. And I drove down to his house, and his house is. I don't own any frocks or anything like that. And Kerry's house, he's got garages full of beaded frocks and Swarovski crystals and all that. And he lent me a couple of these wigs, and he said, "Oh no, you need some jewellery for the walk down." I said, I don't wear jewellery. I don't wear rings. I don't wear for a dame. He's like, oh, please, please, for the walk down, surely. He gave me all these Swarovski crystal necklaces and stuff. And I took them to be kind to him, but I never wore them. But I'm not that type of dame. I'm sort of like bloke in a dress type dame, I suppose, rather than not drag dame. I don't think that's the right word, but there is that sort of glamorous dame, Danny LaRue type.
I remember years ago. I'm not going to mention his name because I haven't asked permission, but it was a drag artist, an amazing drag artist in Telford, and I just moved over there. I've been there, so I didn't really know many people, and I've been invited to come to the pub and meet these new people. And I'd not long been in an accident, right? Which had like stitches in my neck and like stereo strips on my face. And I remember the one night I was talking to these people, telling them what happened in the accident and stuff, and asking questions, and I was telling them. And then a few days later, because I'd gone a Wednesday night, and then on the Sunday I went, and this drag act was on, and the drag artist came outside, mentioned me by name, and was like, "Oh, have you had your stitches out? Have you?" And was giving me loads of grief, and I was like, "Do I know you?" And it was one of the people I was sat on the table with. I just did so amazing, the makeup and the act as well. Never thought it was him. It was absolutely amazing. I just think it's amazing how you can transform who you are as a person. I know that's acting, but I think with a dame, you've got to amplify it all, haven't you?
Yeah, I look different because of I changed my shape, obviously, again with the padded suit.
Yeah, of course.
But I did that. The reason I did that was the first time I played a dame of anything, I was an ugly sister, and I did it with a guy called Scott Ritchie, and I'm 5'9", and I think he was 6 foot. So there wasn't a huge difference in height. So we decided that, to make it funny, I wore flat shoes, and all of my wigs were sort of like out at the side, very flat, but they went out to the side quite a way.
Yeah.
And I made myself really sort of short and round, and he was the opposite. We made him very tall, sort of very high wigs, and thin and high heels. So I sort of then stuck with that padded suit look. And also years ago, when I started doing them, I used to do a lot more, although we have got one this year, a lot more sort of slosh scenes where it was all falling over and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, not always falling over on purpose, but
it's clumsy.
And you would fall over because you're on a plastic sheet covered in shaving foam, so it's difficult to stand up. So the padded suit used to help me, so I sort of stuck with it, really.
One of the questions that Emma asked as well, you talking about the shaving foam and the falling over.
Yeah.
It was 3 questions she asked.
Emma.
She says, do you have an overriding favourite panto memory? Is there something you think about when you think about like some of your most exciting or most memorable moments? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Overall pantomime memory. I really liked doing, bizarrely, I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, but when I did Cinderella here several years ago, I assumed that I would be an ugly sister. And Paul Hendy, again, author, said, "Oh, no, mate, I don't think you should be an ugly sister because I don't want the audience to boo you." And he said, I was thinking that you'd either be Dandini or Buttons. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be a man, I'm not going to be Dandini because he's just a sidekick to the prince and he's not on that much. Although they would have written the part up for me. But then I thought, well, Buttons is the one that talks to the audience. So I suppose Buttons is that sort of character. And I did that was a strange one for me because I thought I'm not going to enjoy this because no makeup, my face, it was me, one costume, there was nothing to hide behind. So I thought that I wasn't going to enjoy that, but actually it was one of the favorites, not just because I got more time, because I wasn't getting changed all the time, but I really enjoyed playing a different character and being a man. And there was a bit in that I the end of Act 1 was very nice. It's sort of taking off on this sort of flying horse, and because as a dame you never get to be involved in those sort of romantic type scenes.
Yeah.
And that was a nice memory.
I always look at things like that. You're talking about how you enjoyed that different role because you got to step into a different role. When it comes to roles and things, I always talk about, setting up my microphones just now. I remember how I was. I was a little bit nervous. I was kind of like, I was to borrow your chair, and I pick up the microphone, and I'm alive, and I've got energy, and I'm confident. I feel like my microphone is my mask. You know what I mean? I don't hide behind the microphone. This is who I am. You know? Do you feel like when you're playing a Dame or when you're playing Buttons, do you feel like that's a different persona? That's a different version of you? Can you hide behind that in a not in a negative way, but in a way that kind of helps you a little bit more?
The Dame more so because you are literally wearing a mask. You know, the makeup is so thick and it alters you. And you know, once you put the wig on, there's the wig up there. Look.
Yeah, I can see that. I saw that coming.
Well, there we go. Before you end your interview today, we'll get a picture of you wearing that.
Absolutely.
That'll be the ident for this episode. You in my wig. But yeah, once you've got that on, you are completely different. And it's a bit like what you were saying about, that friend of yours that was a drag act.
Yeah.
You do become a different person. Buttons was slightly different because it was my face and, it was my body and my face and so I probably didn't go as far as I would have done as a Dame. You can have a chat and it's, yeah.
Have you ever had the temptation to play a baddie? I love playing a baddie. When we do stuff at the prison, they give me this horrible role where I could just be nasty to everyone. And I loved it because I'm a nice guy. So it's just an opportunity to
get it all out. Yeah, I think I would like to at some point. I don't know.
Evil Dame. Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, well, or like an Abanazar or something like that.
Yeah.
I've seen some great Abanazars and also you get more time off stage. So I think as I get older, maybe I'll once I've when I'm too old to do all these quick changes and slosh scenes and falling over, maybe that's when I'll move into the world of Abanazars and things like that.
What's it like? Backstage when you're having to change outfits and look for your. I came to art, which was. Put on by the Shropshire Drama Company a few days ago, and they were showing me how they put the props on the table and they draw around them to make sure they're all in the space. But do you ever have moments where you're like, "Where's me wig? Where's this?" Do you ever have those moments of existential panic?
Sometimes there was. We do the same. Our stage management team will have all the props set on tables like this with the tape around it, and they'll check everyone's props beforehand.
Yeah,
but I will always check my own props as well.
Yeah. Make sure you don't have those moments of
fail to prepare to fail.
Absolutely. Have you ever died on stage? Has that ever happened to you with a joke that hasn't gone right, or That's a really terrible way to put it. Have you had moments?
Have you had moments on stage?
Very unfortunate.
Died on stage. There's lots of harsh words in theatre, isn't there? Die, corpse.
Yeah, I've heard it before.
Killed them.
Yeah.
Have I died on stage? Thankfully, no, not terribly. No, I don't think so. I've been on stage with people when they've died.
Yeah,
and stepped in quickly.
I was chatting to some actors the other day. Obviously, I was covering art, and I was like, "What happens if you forget your lines or whatever?" And like, you just go with it. You just got to own it and just keep going.
Yeah,
confident.
Yeah, don't stop.
Yeah,
that's the worst thing you could do.
So we're here this year. This is Beauty and the Beast.
That's it, Beauty and the Beast.
How's the feedback been? Have people been crazy for the tickets? Have you sold many?
Yes, tickets have gone. I don't know what they're on at the minute, but they're pretty much sold out, I think.
Wonderful.
Until we've added in the extra week now. We finished on the 8th of January, so they've added in a week from last year. I couldn't tell you the percentages or whatever, but a lot of them have already sold. We started rehearsals last week, last week, and we open next Wednesday. So we haven't actually opened yet, but it's going well. Does that add pressure
when it sells out? I mean, it must be an amazing feeling, of course, that it sells out. But does that add pressure on you or excitement? No, it's sold out, or oh my god, it's
exciting! It's exciting. It's lovely. Yeah, who wants to go out and perform to
6 people?
6 people.
Yeah, you might as well just come down from the top there. There's plenty of seats.
The famous story, Clive Dunn? Do you know Clive Dunn?
I don't, I'm afraid. No.
Clive Dunn he played Grandad and he was Corporal Jones in Dad's Army. Your listeners will know.
Yes, I know. I know now.
Don't panic, that one.
Yeah.
He was in a play once years and years ago before he was famous, and they were looking out, and it was a matinee. I can't remember. It was a cold, wet evening or something. And they looked out, and somebody said, "There's only one person out there." He said, "What?" He said, "There's one man in the audience." And so he stepped forward and he said, "Good evening, sir." He said, "I'd just like you to know that there might be only one of you there tonight, but we're professional actors, and we're going to do the whole show. We're not going to cut anything. We're going to do the whole show from start to finish." And the man said, "Well, hurry up. I'm waiting to lock up."
That's wonderful.
Stage doorkeeper. Nobody else had turned up.
This is going to be probably maybe an awkward question. I don't know if it'll work, but you're so busy during pantomime season. Do you ever get to go and watch pantomimes yourself for a bit of inspiration? I guess it's difficult, but is that something that you can do, or you have done in the
It's
past?
difficult. I'd love to go and see other pantomimes. I love to go and see them and travel around. It's difficult, because of days off. Everyone's days off seem to be the same, because obviously everyone wants to do Saturday and Sunday shows because people are off work. And then once they are, when kids are off school, we all do the same show. So it's quite often, I might look, and I sometimes can get to Lichfield, which is another Evolution pantomime, but that's only if we do an early morning and a matinee, and they do a matinee and an evening, and then it's a real rush to get over there. Occasionally we can get to Telford at the Oaken Gates and see theirs, but it just depends whether they clash or not, And also, when you have one day off, and I might have one day off and there's one I want to see, but it's a 3-hour drive, you sort of think, I shouldn't really.
There's lots of hybrid theatre shows coming out at the moment where they're showing like huge theatre productions at the cinemas around the world and stuff, which I think is quite cool. They could do that with pantomimes, couldn't they? They could take that to...
Yeah, they could do. I think they did. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Kudos, who are now Crossroads. I think that they, a couple of years ago, they broadcast one, I think it was the Bristol one, to hospitals.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea, actually.
That was nice. I thought that was a lovely idea. They broadcast it all to hospitals around the country.
That's really, really good.
Yeah.
Well, we've been going for a solid 50 minutes now.
Goodness me.
Yeah, that went quick, didn't it?
Yeah.
Where, I guess, is it the Theatre Severn website to buy tickets, if there are any?
theatresevern.co.uk. Yeah.
And if
sure, that's the website.
If there's anybody crazy enough to be listening to this that's not been to one of your shows, what would they expect the first time? Because I know people that have never been to a pantomime. They think they're silly, and then they go and then they enjoy them, and it's like, it's a pantomime.
I was speaking to someone the other day. Who was I speaking to? I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and they said they'd never been to a pantomime, and they're in their 50s, and they said, we haven't got any kids. And I always get, people always say that we haven't got any kids anymore, or the grandkids, we're waiting for the I say, you don't need to wait for the grandkids. We get all sorts coming here. And I think once you've been, you'll realise that pantomime has changed in the last 20 years. I mean, it had a big resurgence in the 90s, and it goes in flows, pantomimes. I mean, it did have some pretty dire years, and then it picked up again, and then it's changed, and it's constantly evolving. Pantomime has constantly evolved from the day it started. I mean, pantomime in its original form came from commedia dell'arte in the 1700s from Italy. Commedia dell'arte, you've got those characters, Punchinello and all these characters, and then that eventually they sort of travelled over to England, and they went round the markets doing all these sort of knockabout comedies and things. And it's evolved, and it's always evolved. And people think that there's new things, but it just keeps coming round. But families should come and see it. You don't need a kid to come and see pantomime.
No. I like silly things. I like silly humour. Yeah. But there's also there is an art to pantomime to get it right. It's got to be delivered to perfection, I guess, because you're going for those laughs and you're going for the joy of things as well, and the timing's got to be perfect. The right time to run out and maybe shoot people with a water pistol. Like, what's the right time to do that, or to slip on a mat for shaving foam? These silly things. I love that. I think it's got to be done right, and my hat goes off to anybody.
But the audience are a part of that as well, and they have to remember that they're one of the most important characters in the pantomime. When we do rehearsals, I always say, we get to the end of rehearsals and I say, right, now it's time to add the last character of any pantomime is the audience, and you all have to play your part as well.
Wonderful. I think that's a great way to end it. Thank you so much for giving me your time today.
You're very welcome.
It's been really nice. And if there's any way we can help with the show, we're happy to help with the biscuit and going forward. I mean, this is the second show interview I've recorded at the Theatre Severn in the last 2 weeks. It's a good trend to have, I think.
Very good.
To help local productions. But thank you so much for chatting to me. For you listeners, I just got a couple of announcements to make before we get out of here. Number one is we are updating our website. Our Web Orchard have been kind enough to fix my mistakes. I kind of broke the website by changing our host, which messed up my RSS feed, which then ruined the website. So Web Orchard are building us a state-of-the-art website. It's going to look amazing. I'm currently working on new artwork for it. We're going to be filming for like a backdrop for the website. It's going to look so sexy. But I just want to let you guys know that Web Orchard are fantastic at building these things. I went for a meeting with Pete White, CEO over there at Web Orchard. He showed me the website he wants to build me, and I nearly cried. It was that beautiful. So if you're looking for the perfect website for your business, or even for just help with IT, make sure you check out the Web Orchard. They are based on Coton Hill. They're local, and they are wonderful at what they do. And a huge thank you to the guys at Web Orchard for helping us out. Thank you, Brad, again for chatting to us today. It's been great, and thank you, listeners. Make sure you check us out next time. Peace out.